Welcome back. It is time for the conclusion of this here little tale. Last we ended as all hope seemed lost, as I was in a desperate situation that very well could have been the end of my life. But obviously, as you can see, that didn't happen, so here's how it went. After being knocked out cold, I awoke in a damp and cold place. It was pitch black and I couldn't see a thing. At first I dared not move a muscle, afraid the creature might be near. So I waited for a moment in the silent darkness. But I heard nothing, not a single sound. For a moment I feared that I had gone deaf. But when I found my courage and dared to move a bit, I heard the sound of dried up leaves breaking beneath my body. As nothing seemed to react to the sounds I produced, I concluded that the creature had left me alone for the moment, and I started feeling around in the darkness to get a clue as to where I was and how to get out. Being blind in an unfamiliar place, I stumbled around until my hands found something wet but warm, and something that felt like a boot. Maybe I was not alone in this place. Maybe someone else was stuck here with me. I continued my search around, and to my surprise I felt something I knew very well, my own backpack. Swiftly I pulled out a fresh torch and lit it, eager to see who might be lying here by my side. But the sight that befell my eyes was horrifying. I had been right in my assumption that it indeed was a boot, attached to a body, except that it was not an intact one, but merely a piece of what once had been a person, more precisely a part of my unfortunate companion, the hunter. The wet and warmth I had felt came from the bloody pool it lay in. I almost tripped when I tried backing away from this gruesome display, and when I looked down at my feet, I noticed what I had thought to be the sound of dried up leaves was actually a floor of bones. Bones of every size scattered all over the place, snapping and breaking for every step taken. It was a graveyard of all the unfortunate souls that had crossed paths with the monster that called this place home. Unable to remain in that pit any longer, I quickly grabbed my bag, and through the nightmarish tunnels I went. As the pit of bones and body parts lay behind me, I noticed that the tunnels consisted of dirt and occasional roots sticking out. It seemed that the creature lived underground, in a cave somewhere. I just hoped it wasn't too far from the camp and town, and that the beast would leave me alone long enough for me to make it there. I believe the gods smiled upon me that night, because through sheer luck I caught a whiff of fresh air, leading me through the maze-like tunnel network, and out into the freshness of the forest night. As I exited the disgusting tunnels, I noticed that the entrance to this underground lair was through a gaping hole in a huge old tree. A desire for revenge struck me, and I grabbed a flask of lantern oil from my pack and poured out the contents all across the entrance and the tree, and then I lit the bloody thing on fire. I'm not entirely sure what my goal was, but it felt good to see that cursed tunnel fill up with fire and smoke. And with any bit of hope, the creature might just suffocate if it was still down there. I didn't feel like sticking around now that I had just lit the place up like a beacon in the night, so I quickly glanced around at my surroundings, and just barely managed to make out the faint silhouette of the ruined camp in the distance. I hurried there, and just as I reached the place, I heard a loud shriek behind me. And just as I turned around to look, I saw a massive shadow burst out from the tunnels and through the fire. It made a horrendous sound as the creature got smeared in oil and caught on fire as it left its lair and ran into the night. I was certain the creature saw me standing there in the open, so I turned around and bolted as fast as I could back on the path towards town. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me, but like a cruel nightmare cursed to repeat itself, I heard the creature gaining on me, though this time I expected it wouldn't let me live if it caught me. Then, out of nowhere, my foot got stuck on something, and the ground came rushing towards me as I smacked right down into the dirt, face first. I tried getting up, but my foot was caught on something, and just as I was about to trample it with the other in an attempt to free myself, I realized that the thing caught on my foot was the crossbow that the hunter had placed on the ground earlier when we first encountered the creature. I quickly freed myself as I both heard and saw the fiery screaming creature running directly towards me. And just as I turned the weapon towards the monster, ready to fire, I saw the bolt was gone, rendering the weapon useless. Frantically, I scoured the ground for the missing bolt, and a reflection caught my eye. There, amidst a pile of leaves, the metallic head of the bolt just peeked out, having flown there as I tripped and got stuck on the bow. With nimble hands, I grabbed the bolt and placed it on the bow, without focusing too much on the screaming inferno now mere meters away from me. I raised the crossbow, and almost as I could feel the heat from the fire melting away the creature's skin, I pulled the release and struck the creature a blow so fierce it tumbled backwards in an even more terrifying shriek, and then it lay still, quietly burning like a calm campfire in the night. Not willing to take any more risks with this monster, I dropped the heavy crossbow and ran back to town, finally safe from the evil beast. The next morning, a group of the remaining villagers insisted that I accompanied them into the woods to recover the smoldering corpse of the monster, and reluctantly I agreed, as they promised a fine reward if I could lead them to it. But as we reached the place where I had struck it, we found nothing but the heavy crossbow lying on the ground, just where I had dropped it the night before, now covered in shimmering morning dew. The monster itself was gone, having only left behind a small pool of now dried up blood on the ground. We also found the entrance to the lair completely blocked, as the old tree had crumpled down upon itself in the entrance as the fire ate it up. Not finding any other way in or signs of the creature, we returned to town, and I left the place the very same day. Until this day, I have never set foot in that part of the lands again, and never will, as I am certain that monster still lurks out there somewhere with a raging desire to see me dead. So do be careful if you ever venture out into those cursed woods. Salle du Mer is not a place for the faint of heart.